What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Classic Quest podcast. This is the show where we break down the classic hip hop albums throughout time, new, old, what people perceive as classics, go through them track by track, get thoughts and opinions on every single song. The kinds of albums that we talk about are, as an example, would be Napoleon Da Legend's Bronze Saints album. And my name is Holden Stephan Roy.
I am your lady friend Bonnie.
And yeah, today we're going to be going through the whole Napoleon Da Legends project track by track and letting you know what we think about each and every single one of them. At the start of these reviews, we like to create this contextualization of our familiarity with the artist to let people know kind of how we feel about them going into it, because we realized along the way that if you're a really super deep fan of Napoleon Da Legend that has been bumping every single thing this guy has dropped with his ridiculous catalog of released music, and you've been following all of that, you're gonna have a super different context point and frame of reference than, say, myself, who basically only knows about Napoleon Da Legend because the patient Ismail requested us to do this album in particular. So we are doing that because of the Patreon request, and that forces us to listen to the music, not to say forces in a negative way, and then we listen to it and it's dope. But prior to that, I didn't know who Napoleon Da Legend is, but a few people I do know who he is and really fucked with him. So that was cool to see that people were kind of excited about Napoleon Da Legend in general, because that always gets me excited when other people like it. And I heard the project, don't get me wrong, so I totally understand the excitement now. It makes a whole lot of sense to me. But prior to going into this, I literally didn't know a damn thing about him, except that Ismail asked him if he wanted to do an interview with us, and he said he was down. So I emailed him before even listening to the music, and he said yes, but he's in Europe, so
Nice.
I don't know how to do it in the morning yet. Finding time in the morning is going to be complicated. But once we can figure out a morning interview time that works with Europe, we can set up European interviews like that. But that's cool that Napoleon Da Legend is just down, and then we're going to do this review. So who knows? Maybe he fucks with it. Maybe he does. Maybe he watches it and he's like, yo, fuck these guys. I doubt it, but that could happen.
Hopefully
it's
not.
not impossible. Bonnie, how did you feel about this project coming into it? Did you know Napoleon Da Legend ahead of time?
I did not. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Fair enough. So one of the other things we like to do is to talk about the cover and the title, just because of the copyright nature of all of it. You must review it in order to keep it in your video. So what are your thoughts on the album cover to this and the title Bronze Saints?
So I'm not sure which album cover is the right album cover, whether it's the one that's on Spotify, which is sort of ombre and it's just him. And then for that one, I was just kind of well, he's not bronze. This looks more like wood or something. I don't know. So I was just wondering why there's two, first of all. But the second one is more cartoony and more superhero-y, and it's kind of him and his crew. But I don't know who else is in his crew. So again, sort of a weird kind of part. I don't know. I didn't know who the other people were, and but I do get why he is a superhero. So I like that. And I was just wondering if Bronze Saints, if it has something to do with maybe their skin color or his skin color, or I don't know. Now that's my thoughts, I guess, on that.
Yeah, I took the Bronze Saints as possibly being a skin color reference, or within regards to that. Sorry?
Ismail saying it has something to do with anime, so
Fair
there
enough.
we go.
Yo, the wind is driving me nuts. It's just making everything open. It's literally slamming the door. Saint
Put
Seiya
something in the door so it doesn't slam.
I don't know. Anyway, fair enough. I've never really got into anime like that, but that's cool to know that it's from the anime. Or I still got the sense of non-white, but also non-standard, right? Bronze is a far more useful metal than gold, right? Regardless to its perceived value. Like bronze, I mean, gold is super useful in like computing, but like bronze was like more useful over time than gold was. Like gold in a sense was just
For like
shiny and pretty,
wiring and stuff.
and it like became a metal, honestly, and I believe a little bit because it had no other value. Like it was not practical for any of the real shit, so it became kind of fancy. Whereas bronze was like, like it created a whole like technological
I just think of like a
revolution.
bronze bust, like of something that's like an art piece that's like I don't know.
Apparently, he sampled the anime's original soundtrack on this project too, which is fair. But I was just like, thinking
Makes
about
sense.
just, the Bronze Age was big, right? Like the invention of bronze changed the world, right? Like it just
Yeah.
changed the world. Like it created new found because it was a lot stronger than like the shittier weaponry that came before it. It was one of like the earliest iron hybrid fusion things when they started fucking around with like metallurgy and like it changed the world. So it's cool to think about it like that. Um, and then I don't know, the cover makes me think of like a Justice League of like people coming through to do their thing, like
Yeah.
just an amalgamation of superheroes. And I wonder why though you ended up with this other bronze cover. Like I don't know if y'all
Which
can
one do
see it
you
right.
like the most between like
So
the
like
cartoony one or
this
the
one,
kind of yeah.
I feel like the bronze one that looks like it's a bronze plaque, like the one that's on Spotify is like a less interesting cover to look at, to be honest. But like it kind of fits more. And then when I see
Yes,
Bronze
I
Saints with
agree.
the other one, it's like that's a much more interesting cover to look at. It's a cool animation. I don't know if it's a real anime. It might be like the anime he's sampling, and that's why it can't be like
Like
done or whatever.
it would have been cool if like he had if maybe he had commissioned somebody to like make like a cover drawing or whatever of him as an anime character. Like that would have been cooler because then it kind of would have combined both of like what's happening with
It would have
the
cost so
covers.
much more money.
Not necessarily. I mean, you can find like someone to just draw it for you, but
Nobody's drawing you an album cover like that, like that quality for free. Because the person doing that of that quality value is going to charge you because they know you're using it anyway. I mean, it's possible, but you probably are going to pay for something like that to use it right.
well, you pay $100 for an album cover, okay. But anyways, I think I like the Spotify cover better, like as you were saying, because it fits better. But I get why he chose the other one
Well,
as well.
fair enough. I mean, also like the other one feels more like in the vein of like a mixtape to catch the attention of a particular crowd, whereas the bronze album cover feels like better branding for himself. Like,
Yeah.
um, so that's super nifty with regards to it all. I also like the title of Bronze Saints. It feels like I don't know about the anime, so without that context, it just feels like a person who's trying to almost redefine what a saint is or realign it with a historical perception, just on like the religious front of it, right? Like,
Hmm.
Cesare Borgia wasn't Jesus. That's like the modern Roman Catholic Jesus, the white dude that you see, is a guy named Cesare Borgia, who you can go Google and shit, and that's not what Jesus looked like. So like, I think it's even a commentary maybe on like the religious angles of whitewashing of like a whole region of people that don't. I went to Israel. I like went there. I was by far one of the whitest motherfuckers, and when I say white, I mean like I stood out like a sore fucking thumb, like over there. So that was a whole other part of it. I don't know about the Greek mythology part, but that probably plays into it too. But even then, all of it is bronze colored skin is what it's like referred to in that like era, or at least how you would like picture it from the Mediterranean. It's definitely a term I've used to heard to like define it. Still, I like the title a lot because it makes me think, and I like titles that make me think. I don't know if it
Yeah.
fully explains to me what the fuck I'm getting into, but I think it kind of does, having listened to the project. So I really like the title and find it like super apt. On that note, let's check out the first track, Asgard. All right, what do you think of this track, Bonnie?
I really liked the beat on this one. I thought like his flow was really great as well. And he kind of like names off like some of like his favorite rappers And he's kind of talking about that he's kind of, it's sort of like the intro to, I guess, like a comic book or like a superhero type vibe or something. And it's kind of like how he's going to like conquer the world and kind of how he's going to fight a lot of like the things that he disagrees with. He talks about like gentrification and like things like that. Um, and I thought that was kind of great because so he's obviously like aware of issues that are going on like in his world and like what's happening and like things that he's standing up for. And then at the end, we have like the very short, like kind of like comical skit, sort of something like MF Doom would do. And I think that that's just to introduce the next song, sort of like a little kung fu sort of skit, it sounded like. So yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was short, sweet. I give it a 4.4 on 5. I liked it.
I definitely appreciate this track. My first thought is, and this is gonna be more about like his career a little bit, having not listened to a lot of it. But yo, if this is a 2019 project, and let me go to the Spotify right quick. Since this album has come out, he has released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 whole albums.
Damn.
Since this album came out, and this album came out in July 2019. You guys released 10 projects. You're gonna tell me that like they're not all gonna have raps like this? Of course they're all gonna have raps like this on this, right? Super tight, super precise, everything in the pocket, everything fucking fly. He's got that like bars feel to it, like kind of like that shit that people claim doesn't exist no more. But like if you really look for it, it's kind of like right there in this Napoleon Da Legend track. And I listened to this and I thought about like so many people trying to do so much with it, but like not releasing enough music. And I'm like, Napoleon Da Legend is like this fucking good. Like Papoose and them are all this fucking good. And they put out, this guy put out 10 albums since this album. And I'm like, yo, people don't release enough music. Like that's what I'm left with, just as like a commentary on things. Like, people don't release enough music. Like I keep trying to explain, like I guess in my meta conversations of my life, like maybe this like one album every year with like a 2-3 singles really just doesn't compete if Napoleon Da Legend can rap like this and drop that much music in such a short period of time. He's not clearly worrying about a lot of the other shit. He's just doing his thing and creating something. You know who gives a fuck? Napoleon Da Legend fans. That's who fucking cares. Napoleon Da Legend fans fucking care. Okay? So it's like, who's he trying to impress here? You don't go clear. You can tell he created a lore for this project. He did all this shit just so that people who fuck with him and fuck with the things he's interested in have this fucking thing to listen to. That's like my first thoughts listening to this. Like, it's really impressive. The raps are incredible. It seems to be like a mission statement for the launch of the superhero league. You get the sense of, I'm from this environment, this era. You see it like the Mobb Deep, Block Flooded, When the Gods Speak. It's an interesting time. Like you got the harsh crack era, but also the God body kind of hip hop inspiring elements brought in. So almost saying that, yeah, there was some hood shit, but there was a bigger purpose to it. So you can see that that's kind of where his like inspiration is, and we can see that doubled in with the electronica is the first dude he brings. Ray Nazagus, but electronica is the first one he brings, which to me is like a big statement about where he's at with it and who inspires him. Or Pharaoh Monch was also like super political with it, and overall it's like this feels like I'm gonna bring hip hop back kind of thing. But he really does it from a really cool perspective. I'm from this era, or I've seen this era. These are the people I think are legitimate. He's rapping it in a way that is very reminiscent of the influences he's given the credit to. He's kind of painting out this lifestyle, big bags, fly ladies with sick tats, big dreams, bigger moves it seems, like this whole like era, what inspires him. And then he flows it down to, what am I going to do? Name another rapper never lost in a feature. I don't fucking know. I hate when people make those fucking claims because you can always name another rapper. Then they all like go, that's not the same thing. Let's get past that whole thing. So fine, he's extremely talented with his shit, calling out fraudulent imams and preachers, corrupt politicians. I speak for your freedom. I speak for the streets, the villagers and farmers, disenfranchised, gentrified like in Gotham. And I think that's fair. We can argue that hip hop has gone through a state of disenfranchisement and gentrification via a lot of this shit. And then it takes some people to come through and speak for like the authentic, the weak, the sick, the disabled, and the forgotten. Call Poe on the line and I'ma get it popping. So I like the fact that like he's really over here going, well, first of all, the name like Napoleon Da Legend, you know, this conquest mentality comes through, right? Because Napoleon conquest, like whatever. And then it's like, yo, I'm a conquest for this group of people. I come from this era. This is like my skill set. This is how we come through. This is what inspired me. And this is who I represent. And this is what I'm about. And I like that.
Yeah.
On a distinction front, it's maybe not that distinct. I can guarantee you that if like this came on blended with a lot of other stuff, it would just blend in perfectly, and I might not like identify it really quickly as a distinct person upon a first listen. But when you dig in a little bit deeper, like my third or fourth listen to this, I was like, yo, this is like really, really tight. Like it goes from being like it sounds good to like, yo, this is really tight. Like every syllable is perfectly placed. The beat's like fucking interesting to listen to. The content's like interesting to listen to. I wouldn't give it like the legendary status, but it's a straight 4.5 on 5. Like it's one of those songs that makes me go, bro, I can't even try to rap like this. Like there's no point. If Napoleon Da Legend's here doing this, there's 1,000 other people be doing this, and Napoleon Da Legend is good in this compared to most people, bro, it's like too many people maybe go down this path without actually seeing what the fuck is out there. Because like, yo, the amount of game you need on a pen to compete with shit like this is really high, to a point where very few people can actually do so. Now, Napoleon Da Legend is clearly a guy who can hold his own here. And I respect that shit a lot, because it's like one of those verses that makes me go, I am so glad I don't do this. You know, I'm just so glad I don't do this, because this exists. So 4.5 on 5. Within the realms of this whole, like, people who want that golden era shit, but also want that, like, it's almost like Starface. It really reminds me of Starface. Yeah. And I really like that. Anyway, let's move on to the next track, Shaka The Virgo. Bonnie, what do you think of this one?
I like this one. This one was like nice and smooth and easy to listen to. I think he's talking about like that 3 of his like enemies have died, and that he's just kind of like moving on and doing all of that. He basically just sounds like pretty chill, but also kind of like he doesn't fuck around, you know, like he's not like there to like waste time. Like, he's in it and he's grinding and he's doing what he needs to do, and if the haters fall off, then even better for him. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think and I really like the ad libs on like the hook, like that obviously like the fake gun sounds or whatever. So I like this one. I gave it a 4.4 on 5.
So I was listening to this one, and I realized that like one of the things about the 1990s era hip hop is a lot of the classic albums are like a bunch of rap songs about how my rap is better than your rap. And they use like martial arts, braggadociousness, and a lot of different things to effectively say why my raps is better than your raps. And what I realized listening to this project is Napoleon Da Legend is kind of doing that a little bit here, but via this like allegorical superhero virtue approach to it, right? And you feel just that with the references like alkaline monk, Malachi, hard localize. I'm like, I kind of get what that means. I think I remember what Malachi is. I don't fully remember what Malachi is. Hard times, Valentine's, 3 foes flatline. I'm like, I don't know if this is from the anime. All I do know is that to fully break down that these bars are brilliant, I would have to like Google a lot more than I did. And I'm like, that's fair. This is like niche, and I really like it. But
it's Arabic for angel or messenger?
That's what Malachi is, because Malachi is from the Bible or whatever. I do remember that. 3 foes is flat. Like, oh, that does relate to Malachi. That does happen. See, the bar is great. Okay, I remember the story of Malachi better. And anyway, sorry, but like that's kind of the thing. Like when you get it, it's really cool. Now I want to give Napoleon Da Legend a lot of credit here. His songs are really re-listenable. As in, like, yeah, there's a lot of bars and shit, but you can kind of like zone the fuck out and not really listen to what he's saying, and he just flows over it. Because that's one of my new tests actually for albums, is to not listen to your album. It sounds kind of weird, but can I listen to your album without listening to your album and still give a shit about your album? Because unless you can achieve that, I don't know if you're really in that classic range. You're really up there. and I was walking. This was just on, and like I hit this great state of not paying attention that was perfect. And I really,
Yes.
because the grooves are really nice and shit. And then the hook, this is where it really impressed me. Because a lot of people can write the bars part of it. The verse is really great. It's super tight. All the bars make sense. They're all really brilliant. I'm sure if I Googled everything, it would be great. The general sense of it is he's back. He's going to come through with his team and fuck you up with his rapping.
Yeah.
And if you come at him, it's honestly a 1990s hip hop song, but just done with this niche today. Even down to the chorus, like it just felt so 90s. Like, we never sweat your little shots. Psh, psh, psh. And it's just so good. Like, it feels so fucking good to listen to this, right? And it's just tight, and it's just so like good at what it is. As far as the lyrics, like I don't really know all the references he's talking about, so I don't fully appreciate them, but I still really enjoy listening to it. Like Unmasked Devil, Mortal Kombat specials, hidden jewels everywhere, gotta unpack the bezels. That's cool. It's alright. Like it sounds good to listen to. Everything's in the pocket, but it's definitely in the range of an album where there's like either you get it or you don't, I think. And that's what it is with these like kind of more underground lyrical style things where like the focus is on the brilliance of the poetry, and the poetry is brilliant, but if I don't get the poetry being brilliant, you gotta have like that thing to make me want to re-listen to it. To that end, I would still re-listen to it and never even bother to Google half the shit. I would just maybe get the bars, maybe not.
But
And
I think that that's like what like a lot of people do. They just listen to it, and obviously they just take it like as is, and they don't necessarily look into, oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? And then it's like, when we do this, it clicks a lot better, like Malachi or whatever. Like, I don't
yeah,
know what that meant, but it meant something to you when you read the whole line.
but I
So
think like the more important part is that he sounds great over it. Like his voice comes off like an instrument. It's
yeah.
just perfectly fits the melodies, the vocal inflections, all of that shit is just masterfully done. Really well done. So I'm really impressed again with this. It's another 4.5 on me. I don't necessarily care about like the content, as in like I don't have an emotional attachment to like anything he's saying here. I'll be real with you. But as a rapper, as an MC who's just in reverence of his skill, yo, I'm in reverence of his skill. Like this is one of those guys that makes me feel humbled listening to him because it's so pristine and it's so tight. All right, let's move on, I guess, to the next one.
Cool.
Shiryu the Dragon. So I do want to acknowledge, because Mr. Napoleon Da Legend may watch this for reals, that this is apparently based on an anime, and so there's a bigger theme to the album that I'm not getting, because I don't
Yeah,
know
I
that
don't really
anime.
know anything about anime either.
I've
But
never.
it's interesting because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I could very well be wrong about this because I don't really know anything about this. Um, Anime comes from Japan,
It's an art
whereas
style.
Kung Fu comes from China. So it's interesting that he's using kind of like two, I think it's two separate things to kind of give it like that Asian-y vibe. Like, I don't know.
I just felt it more like there's a lot of martial arts in anime, I think,
And I
or
wanted
like
to like mention because like
I don't know
is
anime that well. Like it's hard
yeah,
for
I
me.
don't
The way I see anime is it's an art style and a genre of like manifestation of things, right? Like, but otherwise it's everything. It's just TV and like a lot of things, but it's just a manifestation. Like it could be drama, it could be comedy, it could be action, it could be everything. Like I've had people like spend the last 12 fucking years trying to pitch me on anime, and every time I look at them I'm like, yo, this looks like an addiction I can't afford to take on in my life because it looks too good. It does look too good, don't get me wrong. But apparently this is an anime about Greek mythology and there's nothing to do with martial arts. Fair enough. But there's still that like energy that like you
there's still
would
that sort of
get,
like what sounds like the samples of like kung fu movies. Like that's
like
why
six
I'm like
backgrounds, Gi Kong activated chi is more underestimate, poke your eyes out like on Bruce Lee. I mean, like, I totally get the kung fu vibes, even if it has nothing to do with the anime. All I'm doing is like we hear the bars, we hear the
yeah,
energy of what's coming in, but without the context of the anime, right? Like I don't know what this
yeah,
thing's about. I never even
yeah.
heard about it.
And like something that Ismail mentioned is that there's not it's not common to have like anime like influenced albums. And I don't know if that's necessarily true everywhere, because I imagine that in like Asia, where like anime is like huge, like I'm sure that there's rappers there too, right? So I'm
I
sure
mean,
there's like
I'm
Chinese and
just
Japanese rappers that are kind of making references to anime, if that's what they grew up watching and
I
enjoyed and
totally
it's part of their
separate
culture.
anime from comics too. By the way, okay, anime is just to me like an art style that is animated in a certain way. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't, again, like I'm saying this kind of just off of like secondhand knowledge, but I think the real reason that a lot of people haven't done it a lot is honestly because it's like whenever you make some super niche shit, like it goes over a lot of people's heads. So you have to really just be wanting to make some shit you love for the people that would love it. And if people don't get it, like you have to kind of be okay with that, which is where I think the underground gets really cool in life. People just make like I love the fact that Napoleon Da Legend created this project out of something he loved. The idea of it is
Yeah.
wonderful to me. And when I listen to it, I feel like this project is cohesive, by the way, and does move along this plot of like ethics and virtue that gets put forth. Like it's not so much I'm a better rapper than you is the core of this. It's more honestly you feel like he's a warrior going into
Mm.
a world with a lot of corruption and sin, and he's like arming himself for this battle to like go through. And it reminds me of playing RPGs. I feel like this has the plot of like a JRPG I would have played like back in the day. And on that front, it's like mad cool to me. Yo, when I hear Armor on my back, Rocket with some pride, I'm picturing like fucking Dragon Quest or Breath of Fire and all the shit back in the day, you know? So it's like, as much as it might be about one thing, it's still tapping into a whole bunch of shit for me that like kind of is cool. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know what Shiryu, my favorite in Athena's Eye. I'm sure that has some real references, but like I love. I don't know. Why don't you tell us what you think about it?
Well, anyways, this song features Nejma Nefertiti. I think I've got her name right. So for what I took away from this was that it starts off with like another sample from a kung fu movie. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I assumed it was. And this song definitely has a very like Chinese influenced sound. Like the instruments sound like they're like a Chinese instrument, like something that I hear when I think of like Chinese music. Um, and I think that that's really cool. So I really liked Nejma. She has like pretty great. All of her bars were great. She seems pretty smart. I like that she says like sipping on some dandelion tea while I read every day, perfecting my flow. We can always exceed. So I like that she reads. She seems like a kind of down to earth girl. She's just sipping her tea. And dandelion tea is like pretty like I don't know. It seems to be like part of the new hippie movement. I keep seeing like all the hippies drinking that. Um, so I like that, and and she's just trying to like always do better, and I think that that's kind of what we're all trying to do. So this one's good. The beat and like the music is just really nice to listen to. Like I really liked that. Um, and he's kind of singing about the same sort of thing, that he is still learning and he is still growing, but he's also like still hella good though. Like he's kind of like acknowledging that he's not a bad rapper. And he mentions that he's the defender of the earth. Hello. So that's always very cool. I always appreciate that. And at the end, we have a sample of what I think is another kung fu, or the same, I don't know, what I assumed it was a kung fu sample,
I think
and
it's
it's
from
in
that
French.
anime.
It's in French. And I don't think that any of the other ones that we've heard so far are in French, but I thought that that was really interesting. And then I looked him up and everything, and he grew up, I think, in France, or he part of his life was spent in France. So I think that that was kind of cool that he's kind of using all of his like international travels and times and everything that he wherever he was. It seems like he kind of has like from his story a little bit off of this album. It seems like he has kind of an international family. So I think it's really cool that, anyways, part of it was in French. And so, yeah, it was good. I like this one. I gave it a 4.5. It was really just enjoyable to listen to.
I like it too. I feel like it has a cool energy. It's got like a chiller vibe to it. And it just feels like the whole first verse is honestly like protect your inner peace and focus on your inner strength and like build yourself up and like be
Yeah.
cool with who you are. And I really like that vibe. I feel like it's super tight. It has like a strong thing. She sounds really powerful. And it just sounds like again back in that like believe in yourself. Don't let other people tell you who you can be. Take pride in your ancestry. Take pride in who you are. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why, like, when you think about the people that he was mentioning in the first track and the inspiration that he was pulling from, it's a lot of that. Like, take pride in who you are within your community kind of rappers moving into this. So, like, I think it's really cool that like I think a double over of this project is to kind of give people a bit of a manual to like look at themselves and build themselves up to be the kind of superhero, to be the bronze saint within this world, to be that light that puts out, because like think about what a saint is, right? Like it's a person that ultimately lived in such a righteous and influential way in the world that they were sainted. um so it's cool to me. uh the chorus is another great chorus. I think the chorus is really where Napoleon Da Legend like stands out. Um, a lot of like people can't make a hook. I mean, it is what it is. The hooks aren't hooks. They're like repetitious parts that sound like verses. That's not a chorus. This is a chorus. It's got a completely different vibe, but more importantly, it gets stuck in your head with a bit of an earworm moves, and you kind of find yourself singing along to this shit. I don't know. Like again, I don't know what Shiryu favorite in Athena's eyes even fucking means, but it's stuck in my head, so that made it a good chorus. Um, and it just flows and it rides the beat really well. And the production on this project is really great. I really like the fact that he produced it and like it kind of like created this thing that just fits perfectly with everything he does. And I don't know that a lot of people can pull that off. I feel like a lot of people who produce their own music, it's not like as eloquently interesting as what Napoleon the Legend is doing here. So I want to give him props for that as well because the it feels like a story in a way that really justifies it, where it's almost like nobody else could have told it, so he just did it himself. Like, and I really respect that. Um, then his verse is cool. I again like I don't feel myself feeling like any of the bars are like super duper quotable. It's more like I really enjoy the overall vibe of how he delivers it, the overall essence of like leveling up, making yourself stronger. Even that going as far as like milliseconds, like at a flow point, milliseconds really is how you would improve to a point where your flow is just tighter than the next guy's, you know. And I like it. I like the fact that he's like, I'm gonna just keep training and perfecting and being great and elevating
Yeah.
until I'm the best. And I'm like, fair. That's a strong way to approach it. Um, I'm left with like a 4.35 on this one. I enjoy listening to it, but I feel like it's more like at this point in the project, like if you're into this, this is the project, and then if you're not into it, well, this is the project. It's kind of the sense you're at with it. We're still gonna go through the rest of it because I really fucking like this. This is a very enjoyable project. Don't get me wrong, but from the reviewer point of view, usually about 3 to 4 tracks in, you get the idea if it's gonna be like mad consistent, or if it's going to be like all over the place. And I feel like we're going down the mad consistent route. Um, so let's check out the title track then, Bronze Saints. Before Bonnie talks about it, I'm sitting there literally going 6 dots Krillin. I'm like, oh, I get that bar. Because Shalom with no hair, 6 dots Krillin. That's a Dragon Ball Z bar, right? I know that shit because Dragon
Sure.
Ball Z was like the hottest shit when I was young. So I actually watched like the first like 2 seasons of that shit before I was like, bro, this show is the same thing forever. It's like there's a 4 plot like rundown of Dragon Ball Z, like 4 episodes on repeat. Episode 1 is they talk. Episode 2 is they talk and a little conflict appears. Episode 3 is they talk for a couple minutes, big fight. Episode 4 is they talk about what just happened and then repeat that shit. Anyway, I'm not trying to hate. I know Dragon Ball Z is a lot about like energy, but this was like my teenage interpretation of that show, trying to get into it. Still, Krillin is one of the dudes, and he's got no hair and he's got 6 dots. But then it said Piccolo, And I'm like, yo, Piccolo doesn't have 6 dots. What am I missing? Piccolo's the green dude. And then I Googled Piccolo just now, and he
Like the
didn't.
instrument?
No, it's a green dude in Dragon Ball Z. It's just a green guy in the character. Oh, does a Piccolo, the instrument, have 6 dots? Maybe that's
It
what it is.
might.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Instrument. Now we're going to check that out because I'm curious. Now I'm invested in this one fucking bar. Um, I don't know how to even know.
Look at how many holes does a piccolo have?
It's hard. Well, it looks like it has more than 6. I don't fucking know. Maybe that's what it is. Still, okay, I'm gonna move on from that bar. But that's what I mean. That's where like I'm at with these bars. So like they're really cool. And when you really put the time and effort into thinking about them, like they're really like consistently put out. Unfortunately for me, a lot of these bars are tapping into source materials and references I'm super not familiar with. So it's like a high effort pursuit to go through a lot of it. But I really love this song. Still, what do you think about it?
Sorry, I was just looking at piccolo.
It's great.
I was looking at the instrument. But anyways, this is it's a good one. I really like this one. I really like the beat. This is sort of like his story. It's sort of his rags to riches story. He really just has like a fantastic flow, and I really enjoy like his like rhyme play. Like it seems like half of like one verse is like one sort of like rhyme scheme, and then like the second half is another sort of rhyme scheme, and I liked that he does that. And then he says like, I'm from the future, can't copy shit too brand new. So I like that he's like he's doing something that nobody else is doing, and he can't be copied because he's from a different time. A chew bamboo panda kung fu, when I come through I'm like Sun Tzu. Everybody want to come through drinking plum juice, take your head and punt you. So I like that kind of like rhyme scheme. I like he talks about like Sun Tzu. I don't know, it's pretty cool. It's very like impressive bars. I like the flow. I like everything about this song. Really, it's pretty great. It's just two like fantastic verses back to back, and he too is omnipotent like your girl. So yeah, I like this one. It's toit. I give it a 4.75 on 5. What do you think?
I think it's really strong. Like this one is like a bit of a standout compared to the other ones. Like I feel like we elevated in quality a little bit. The verse is really tight, as in compact with a lot of syllables, but like it's not boring. Like it's not stuffing. It's more like this is really exemplified with the won't even punch you programming Jones out to hunt you. That's a cool bar. That's like I feel like that's what like a future boss is gonna be. Like if you really want to just go in like a crazy little tangent, just like imagine the future of like actual street combat, like when drones can be equipped with weapons low key, like it costs 200 to get like a weaponized drone. Like imagine that fucking universe. Anyway, I don't know if I really want to. I was just that's what I heard when he said that. I'm like that's actually fucking plausible.
Yeah.
Is you dumb? Dude, you dumb. I like that a lot. That's like kind of talking to other people, but especially after that last line where he's like showing a bit of visionary thinking, and then in a general sense he's a person who's clearly put in all this training and gone through all of this shit, and he's like worked so hard to master his shit, and then it's like you come across people and you're just kind of left with like these ops, these haters, these people, and it's just like, yo, is you dumb? Dude, you fucking dumb. I'm eating dumpling with brew. It just sounded really good, and it uses the dumb again. I don't know 100% the relevance, but that's okay. I don't get it. Dumb diddy dum dums if I bump into you. I like that because it's playing on that dumb diddy dum thing. I like that like hook from back in the day. Fits it in seamlessly, but also like adds into this like notion of people being like dumb that he's not into and how he's gonna deal with it. Something to prove, nothing to lose. Jump in the coop, doing my numbers, the best you'll ever be's number 2. Fair enough. I like that. True. It's braggadocious, but it's just cleverly written. It's like tripling the fuck down on the word dumb and like overly going through it. I still don't fully get the eating dumplings with brew. Maybe that's a little bit there to keep the flow, but like maybe it's not, right? Maybe there's this like whole context to the anime where people are gonna hear that shit and be like, I get it, which is why I'm trying to learn how to just say I don't fucking get it. Whatevs, somebody else can get it, and it's for them. What is really important is that it sounds fucking great to listen to this shit. It just sounds amazing the way he like flows over it, and then that chorus. Oh my gosh, that is like the best chorus That is really strong. It's got that triumphantness to it. Like the way he sings it is dope. It's just so unexpected. You're not expecting like this fucking Gregorian styled fucking vocals like to come
Yeah.
through, and you just want to get your fucking phalanx gear on with your shield and your fucking spear and your bronze equipment and fucking rush into combat and hand to hand, like, you know, like, I don't know, you get that vibe off of it.
Yeah.
Then he does the second verse, and I like how it's cool. I like how he does a little bit of like shit, like smelling my roses while I'm alive. I know the fragrance. Like I'm not waiting on other people. I know the playlist and the gatekeepers. I don't blame them. And I'm like, oh, we talking about some real shit there, because I don't blame them either, but I know them too. I don't blame them. People got to eat, right? I know it's
Yep.
rather blatant how payola got him famous. Oh, is he doing this? He is doing this. That's the facts of the game. Everybody acts like talent matters. Talent doesn't matter quite as much as payola. People don't get that. A lot of people, a lot of my peers don't get that. A lot of my peers believe that being an amazing rapper inherently is gonna like get it. Now, Napoleon Da Legend dropped 10 projects probably at his quality in the last like 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, payola gets you a lot more famous on a single than like pushing shit. If you're talking about fame, not legacies, not careers, not even sustainability and fiscals, just fame. I know to challenge that energy inside of men that see you shining and it spark jealousy inside of men. I know the third world, I know the islands, I know the violence, so many died, moment of silence. And I find that interesting too, how like a lot of people are so focused on other people's fame and they're jealous of it without understanding the dynamics of how it was achieved, that they overlook shit like what's actually going on in the world. And then he brings it
Yeah.
there, and I'm like, yo, I kind of empathize. Like I used to feel the way until I saw the third world that one time, and I'm like, oh, maybe my life's blessed. And now my attitude changed. I'm still not as humble as I'd like to be, but trust, compared to before that times, it's big differences. And I really like the second verse a lot because I feel like in a sense we break the fourth wall and kind of come through and show his energy in a way that is really relatable. I even like that where it's like a mark of wisdom, pillar of pride, yet vilified. Fuck that. I'm dillified. Godzilla hide identified as the torchbearer. That I thought was super cool too. Just the idea of like owning the idea of being vilified and then flick that to like I'm dillified, which is dope because of Dilla. But then Godzilla hide like nah, like Godzilla. It's like I think Godzilla is not really a villain, right? Like he appears to be a villain. It's like the whole point of that. I might be wrong about my Godzilla lore, but I know a lot of people out there love the Godzilla. I digress. This song's really stand out. This is one of those like super tight tracks that like I fucks with a lot. I'm giving it like a 4.75 on 5. Really awesome track. Let's move on to Saiva's theme.
Seiya's theme.
Seiya's theme. My bad. Hey, what do you think about this one?
So he started talking about kind of growing up lost, but also like knowing like his true path and kind of like staying away from like bad things and just figuring out where he kind of needs to be. And this one kind of like gave me a more of like a like there's something about it that gave me like a Western vibe. Like it made me think of like cowboys. I don't know. There was something about like the beat or like the vibe. I don't know, something about it. Um, and he talks about how he likes anime because, you know, they, you know, or maybe he's specifically talking about Seiya. I didn't realize that that was a particular one. Um, but he's sort of talking about that he likes them because they stand up for something, like these characters like who like fight uh the bad in the world. So he appreciates that, and that's kind of like, you know, they're essentially role models for him. So kind of he believes in himself, and he's never going to give up, and he's going to keep on fighting for what he believes in too. So it's a good message. I really like it. And at the end, we do have another sample in French again, which is nice. So I give this one a 4.25 on 5.
I really like this one on that like poetry front. Like it's really like fun to think about. Like Mozart kept my nose into art. Some days it felt lost like I'm in the Ozarks. Now I'm just picturing like the Netflix start of the show and how it had like the four pictures and symbols that were gonna foreshadow what the episode was about, and you spent half the episode. Anyway, Ozarks. It's a good show. Well, it's a good show until it wasn't. Anyway, Mozart is
I
an
mean, it's
interesting.
also a good place, I guess, too.
Yeah, and then but you can picture being lost in the Ozarks because of that show, I believe, which was more relevant, I think, in 2019. Moms used to send me postcards telling me she loved me. That meant the world to me, and it got me through the ugly. And I love that part too because it just shows the power of how something like a mother's love or just affection and people caring about you are that significant that those almost little isolated moments, like a soldier looking at a picture of a loved one in war, can psychologically get you through a very intense situation. And throughout this track, you get the sense that it was kind of like being young and fast living and complicated and everything. And while he did feel inspired and stuff, the environment that he was in was complicated. And I really feel like that was nifty. Like the idea of knocking on doors to get a record execs, Jimmy Iovine saw us, they almost arrest us. Like, can you imagine busting into the Interscope offices on some run up in there shit, and then Jimmy Iovine is trying to call the cops on you type thing? Like, bro, a lot of people say they did a lot of things to do a lot of things. That is some real shit. Like, and I don't even mean it like in a negative way. I mean like that is a level of dedication and passion of trying to figure shit out and maybe being misguided about it, but still having that passion that is crazy. Trying to get the radio stations to play you, trying to get through it, getting into fights, being young and just out there. And I love the way he paints this picture. The only lyric I was like kind of caught up on was young Frank Sinatra, and I did it my way because it just makes me think of Logic. Like, I'm not gonna lie,
I didn't make a comment on that just because I feel like I've heard that in like
1,000 times,
several songs.
so many times. I mean, like, I feel like
It's
the
classic, but
I feel like it's the kind of bar my mom would write into a track when she thought she was being clever because she could figure that one out. But it's still a good bar, and I'm not trying to hate on it. Like, it was just I can't hear young Frank Sinatra and not think of Logic. Like, I feel like people like Logic ruined the idea of that for me. Like, because I think about it, and I don't even dislike Logic. It's just all I could think about was Logic for the next 15 seconds of this track, and I thought that was a
I mean,
super
I
nifty
just
thing
like Frank Sinatra.
worth mentioning because it happened. And then I like how the second part of the track, with this little break, turns into something where it's almost like I moved on, like I got these opportunities. I escaped this shit, and music's gonna make my way out. I like when he's like, "Believe me, man, when I tell you, you think shit's sweet. Ain't nobody gonna give you shit unless they eat. Unless you coughin up paper, you'll be coughing up tears. Many skeletons buried in a coffin of fear." And I feel like, man, a lot of people here talk about how some of these things are local, and then you hear this track, right? And he's basically complaining about the same shit Montreal rappers complain about, in the sense of like how hard it is and how complicated and how pay to play it is and how this it is. And it's just, I think more people should listen to other rappers in other cities when they like talk about this kind of shit, so they can see that like this is just like a around the world problem. So you running away from your city isn't gonna fix it because you're just gonna go find that problem in a new city.
Yep.
Anyway, dropping these bombs, 85 West Philly, it's still free mamba, still got our fist up. When you really believe, then you never give up. And I really like how he ends it. It's all complicated. He shows us a back in the day times about how passionate and on that grind he was, and he ends it with, we still doing it, regardless, because this is just what we about. This one's a 4.5 on 5 to me. I feel like it's a really cool track. It really sounds well. I mean, the last one was pretty fucking stellar, but this one's also really good too. Let's move on then to Seventh Sense. All right, Bonnie, what do you think about this?
So this song features Bbass. I just wanted to mention that. I don't think we did. So I find like the opening, or like the kind of prevailing message that we are warriors. I find like that is, it just makes me think of like we are farmers, like the commercial for, I don't know, insurance or something. So like that's just what it kept reminding me of. So, but I liked the flow. I thought it was really good. And I like that he kind of says like everything he does is Black history. Like it doesn't matter what month it is. Like it's always. And so like, anyways, this one was fine, but it wasn't necessarily like my favorite, although parts of it were great. Like I liked kind of like the messaging, and I like the flows, and I like everything. Um, But for me, like this one was just sort of like him talking about like how he's gonna keep on fighting and how like you know he's gonna keep on living his life until he dies and he's gonna keep fighting for what he believes in. So I thought that that was really good. So I don't have too much to say on this one. I gave it a 4.25.
Yeah, this one is super strong. I feel like the chorus is reminiscent of the chorus of Bronze Saints, but just a little less good, but still in that same like vein of things, and I really like it. And I agree with the sense that this is just such a powerful song. Like the sentiment of being like I like honestly, it just feels like we are black, we are excellent, and we need to love each other more. And I really think it's
Yeah.
strong. Like I feel like the second verse really has this profound part. Tore my heart out of my chest when my dad passed, and then I seen Ye proudly sport a MAGA hat. But it's cool, and forgive him, we forgiven folks. We need to come together more instead of dissing folks. I thought that was an interesting thing to actually put into a rhyme, right? Like, a lot of people
Yeah.
are very quick to diss and to hate and to talk a lot of things about a lot of things, but not a lot of people are so willing to just like openly forgive. And I see this all the time. Like, people just like ostracize, like left, right, and center. Like, one move too far, boom, you're done. And it's like, yo, we all fucked up, you know, like in our past, and we've all done like kind of dumb shit. Like, it's almost as if everyone expects everyone to follow this like fucking ridiculous standard of like perfection in a sense, and nobody even can achieve it. So it's like probably more important to be forgiving and coming together instead of just fucking dissing. Like, there might be reasons that we don't understand, and there may be ignorance that needs to be like cured, so to speak, but we can't do that with the alienations. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sick of most posts. I'm going to unfollow anything not following the universal law models. Them hate missiles they be launching is real. My circle's strong. We accomplish and build. And I think that's an interesting point. So you can be forgiving folks, but at the same time, if the energy's wrong, get the fuck up out that place, because that energy's gonna fuck with what you're building. And I think that's a really like big thing too. Something I'm learning a lot about is how to like manage that, how to manage the people who how to just like forgive, but also like not let the negative shit in, right? Because there's a lot of it
Yeah.
out there, and a lot of people are kind of dark. So, how do you learn how to like actually forgive people while dealing with that and not becoming this like Dissy McDiss face type? I don't know. Um, then I just love how like no matter the odds, we're going to like reach into our souls and like fucking achieve the greatness because we're built for this and we're going to do it. And I just think it's really strong. Like, it's a really strong verse. It's a really powerful song. Um, it I don't know. The first verse is great too. I just feel like it's really straightforward. Um, I learned how to achieve based on kind of my instinct and trusting who I am rather than the outward influences. And by trusting in who I am, I was able to tap into the essence of like my history and achieve great things. And I really like also that every time I rap, it's Black History. Who would have thought it? History would have thought it was February, and I think that that idea inherently is true. Like, technically, every black person that does anything is Black History, and it should be celebrated as such. And I don't know why like there's such like a hesitance, especially even in a local end. Like, if you really, as to like the white folk out there, if you really bought that Black History, are you like celebrating your black friends' local history and shit? Like, do you care? I don't know. That's what I thought about when I heard that. The chorus is fucking strong. It's really just holds the song together and really just kind of manifests everything in like a chant. You can just see like a whole stadium singing this with like lights and shit, and it'd be fucking beautiful. I get a song 4.5. I really like it. I feel like it's got this mantra esque power to it. Let's move on to the middle point of the album, Wailing Wall. All right, Bonnie, what do you think of this one?
Um, this one is definitely more like pensive sounding. So he's just kind of thinking about like, his life and everything about it and kind of like what he's standing up for and like kind of his thoughts. I really like the piano. It was very like nice, gentle piano mixed in. So he's kind of also talking about like issues with his family and kind of like how you know, he stayed and he supported his family and he did what he could, you know, and he kind of toughed it out a little bit. And, you know, he's saving his money to, you know, I think he's trying to get to New York, or he's in New York, trying to get by. And he's splitting costs with people, and he's trying to, like, you know, save money by like sharing a metro pass, and things like that. And, you know, he's also kind of talking about like it's how important it is to cherish your life and like kind of how tough it can be, and so to appreciate, you know, the time that you have here. So it's kind of, it's very nice, it's sentimental, and it's powerful at the same time. So I like this one. I gave it a 4.35.
I feel like this is cool because like I almost feel like he's breaking the fourth wall a bit and just kind of talking to the fans and just the people who are going to listen to this kind of a little bit, breaking beyond the role of the character. Like, you saw my demons, you saw my dreams, you saw me at my weakest when I lost and grieved. And if you think about a lot of artists, right, when they're going through like the worst parts of their lives, they just kind of write it out and put it out on display. And yo, a lot of people do a lot of fucking crazy escapist shit. Like, yo, think about the drug addictions and all of the different things that really get glorified in the lifestyles that get pursued, the things you see on Instagram, the way people pursue lives. A lot of these people are just trying to escape pain, and it's just glorified. And it's almost like you're supposed to live in this like self-deprecating terrible way. Not to say it's terrible, but a lot of the habits are actually harmful to us, and we just do it for fun because it's how we live. um and so you feel like this sense of the first verse where it's like he's living this like almost dream life, grateful to be in New York doing all this shit, but it's like inside of himself it's not like correct. It doesn't feel right. It isn't the world that it's supposed to be. Like, he's wasting his potential. Like, he thought about the sacrifices of how his parents brought him overseas and all this shit. And then his sister disappears, and it's like, yo, that's got to be scary and shit. But yo, I just want to comment on his flow and his use of pauses here. It's all like fucking pristine. He's just, each line is like intricately, snugly put into like the fucking pocket with all of these little pauses, but there were no ad libs or anything. It just kind of like let the line like resonate. Like, the gap between my sister was gone. Nobody knew where she went. It's just like, it feels like those pauses add so much to the storytelling, and I really like the effect of that on this flow. He does it a lot, but it's
Yep.
really good here. Um, so then his parents split up because it was complicated over that situation, and then he was presented with this: you can stay here, you can go back, I guess, to France. And then he picked America because at the end of the day, it just felt like the best thing. And then you got this rocket launch chorus, you know, life kicks you in the ass no matter what. You gotta, like, you know, appreciate life. But that every minute is a minute closer till I die line is something that resonates. Like, yo, I realized at a certain point that, yeah, today, being in my 30s, a lot of people live to like 90 and shit. But like, yo, people used to only live to like 55, 60. Like, that used to be like the normal age to die. So like, I'm like past the halfway point of life up until very recently, you know. So I kind of like think about shit like that a lot. And all the minutes that you do and what you use with your time, like, that's all you have, right? That's all you really have. All of this is just stuff that we create. So cherishing moments and having fun and shit's supposed to be important. You know, like, I guess, you know, all the bad stuff, the hours you waste obsessing on shit you can't control, all that crap. I don't know. And then I like how in the second verse, it's almost like now he's doing really well and he's being kind of reflective on shit. Like, yo, now that I'm doing okay, let's talk about it for real, real. You know, it's kind of expensive to be in New York. And it was like, yo, it's kind of like I was broke off the jump and I almost lost where I lived. And all these really hard shits came through. And it's like, yo, you might see us doing well. You might see some shit. But really, I'm on a sardine diet of hummus and rice cakes, going half on Metro cards, you know, like having to
Yep.
split the Metro card with somebody. That's rough. Donated clothes, all this shit. Working overtime. Because in New York, hard to get paid for shows. Same thing in Montreal. And that's to say, when you think I'm doing so grand, never base someone's life on what they're posting on the gram. So still, in light of that, though, he dug himself out. He flipped his life around. He did all the damn things, and he's fucking achieving it because you can pull it off, and you can kind of like get to that point where your momentum is proper. And when you do get there, it's like you did it. There's no turning
Yep.
back. You're committed to the life. And I really respect this song a lot because it feels so candid. And it also outlines like how hard it fucking really is in terms of like, yo, a lot of us might like struggle with a lot of different things off cam. Like, yo, hard to pay bills, or like, how am I ever gonna fucking do this next thing, or all these other things that like, yo, the stress is serious sometimes. And the fact is, there is a breaking point where like you can bust off, and all of a sudden you just have the momentum and the team, and all of a sudden you can focus on the things that matter while other people focus on the parts they all play. And it's like, damn, all of it, like, it's just seeing it, it's so encouraging. And a reminder that like you just kind of have to grind shit out, and then inevitably, after you've grinded it out long enough, which is probably a good decade of your life, you'll get to the greener pastures and shit. I'm gonna give this one like a 4.35 on 5. It's also nifty that it's called the Wailing Wall. I've been to the Wailing Wall. So like, I mean, I don't know. It's where you would go and like you write your prayer on a piece of paper and you like stick it in the wall and shit. So like it almost feels like, in a sense, this song is like a prayer that he's putting into the Wailing Wall of the existence of the universe or whatever. Anyway, the next track is Gold Cloth. All right, Bunny. How are you feeling about the Gold Cloth track?
So music seems to be kind of where he really truly shines. Like that's kind of like what he's kind of talking about. And he kind of mentions that he like may have Asperger's, but like he's just gonna keep on doing it, and like, he doesn't really like let that bother him so much. And that he just wants to make the world a better place than when he entered it. And like that's kind of like the overall message of this one, that he's just trying to be a good guy, and he's just trying to do the right thing and stay on the right path, and it's good. And it goes to show that he's very driven, and he's smart, and he knows what he wants. So I like this message. It was nice, it was powerful, it was good, it was very good. So I gave it a 4.3 on 5.
I never heard of Pythagoras' bar I like so much, but young Pythagore, that pinnacle raw slash cynical, identical to none, that's a good bar, using the mathematics in it. Because, yo,
Sure.
you know what drives me freaking bonkers? A bunch of musicians talking about how they don't know algebra. Like, bro, bars is algebra. Your flow is algebra. Honestly, if you really break it down at like a mathematical level, music is math. So, like, all you have to do is understand the math of the music, you can find a flow. That's all it is. It's timings. It's just that's music. It's just math. Anyway, but it's good math. It's sexy math. I like the math a lot. But I really like this track. It's really fucking cool. That whole like matter of fact, I lay my wax with mathematics. Like, yo, I've been kind of touching on that God body shit, like mentioning it because that's what he's been doing. I realized what I liked about this album compared to a lot of the lyrical, and I use lyrical in a bit of a goofball term. Everything's lyrical. But you know what I mean when I say lyrical. Y'all know what I mean. Because these people say lyrical this and that all the time. And it's only those people who say lyrical. So this shit comes off lyrical like that. Only it's not. It's just way better. This whole album has like this like self-help tutorial vibe to it. Where like, if you're listening to this and maybe your self-esteem and your confidence ain't in like the strongest place because of life circumstances or whatever, as you listen to this album and the songs come through it, and it feels like it instills in you this sense of strength and to take pride within one's own identity and to like be comfortable with who you are and to like practice and to persevere and to struggle beyond it all. And I really fucks with that shit. I really, really do. So like when you get that On My Hero's Journey, a young lad with a purpose. If you heard me last year, I was just scratching the surface. And if you think about how he's done 10 albums since this, fuck me, eh?
Busy guy.
Antisocial. Sometimes they said I had Asperger's. And I like that line a lot because, yo, when you read Asperger's and you think about it, like, yo, like when you look at some of this shit, a lot of people are kind of like in that vibe where people think that, but they often tend to be people who are like workaholic perfectionists who really do things like spend all the hours studying and working to do it. Like, yo, you're possibly on a spectrum at that point, regardless to whether it's true or not. You kind of got to pay it no mind. You just focus on what you got to do and run it. So I like the fact that He acknowledges the complications of dealing with people, but then also focuses on the divine entities of life to lace it with his music. And then for the rest of the track, you just get this sense of like, I'm going to train myself into the machine of person so that I can be the hero in this world, battling the villains and like come through it and be like an inspiration and be something powerful out there. Like, as the war rages, your life will go through four phases: the birth, the challenge, aftermath, and the changes. And when I heard that, I'm like, that's kind of true. You're born, then there's some challenges, then there's the aftermath of those challenges, and then there's whatever changes or not that you choose to implement. And that is kind of what happens with your life. And then
Yeah.
if you think about that in a more metaphorical way, that's every phase of your life. So in the new phase of your life, you go through a birth and a challenge. I use this RPG metaphor where you level up to the next set of monsters that kick the shit out of you. You could argue that that's just like this path for every venture and everything you do in life. And it's just really cool to just kind of hear him concisely break it down. This one's a fucking great track. I give it a 4.5 on 5. Plus the beat's
Nice.
great and all that shit. I feel like all the beats are good and they vibe really well. They're like similar but different. They flow really well cohesively. But definitely it's a similar but different. Like if you're not into the overall sound, you might not really be vibing as much by track 8. But I like it. So let's talk about Ikki the Phoenix.
Okay.
All right, Bonnie, how do you feel about this one?
Well, I like this one. He's kind of like talking about that he, feels powerful, and I feel like he feels connected to his roots because he's like kind of wearing like he's talking about wearing African jewelry and things like that, and I think that that's kind of, cool and important that he's kind of showing off his culture through his um, jewelry choices. He's kind of talking about like if you know about like good hip hop, then why are you making shitty hip hop? Like he's kind of like questioning that, and obviously I think he's talking about like someone or something that like kind of like pissed him off a little bit, and he's kind of just letting his feelings out, I guess, but like not in like an aggressive way, but just kind of like in a kind of questioning way. Um, and like it's really smooth as well, and everything that he's gone through, good or bad, has brought him here today. And now you know who he is because of like the mistakes he's made, because of the things that he's done in his life, the changes and the, whatever route that he's followed. Like he is here now today, and like he like that is his legend, that is his legacy, that is like, kind of what he's talking about and who he is. So I think that that's pretty cool. um I give this a 4.25 on 5.
Yeah, this one's definitely an interesting one. It feels like he's a little angrier on this one. He's a little
Yeah.
tapped into his frustration. So like that first verse really has this proactive like I'm really like well first open hand smack head that spam Jolly Rancher rap dead. So right away we know that he's coming at it from a point where he doesn't like that shallow candy rap. Like that
Yep.
fake shit, we'll call it. I caught a lap dance on a jet, rooster head ass promoters is like feds, etc. But then I do like how he flows from that into kind of like, okay, you're getting a buzz, you're doing okay, whatever, but you're not going anywhere with it. So it's
Yeah.
not just like, yo, your shit's full of shit. It's more like, okay, you're doing these things, you're making your buzz, but like, what the fuck are you gonna actually do? How are you gonna monetize that? Like, for real,
Yeah.
like, I feel the same way he does here because it's not like I think that any of these moves are inherently bad or whatever. Or I'm not as inspired by the music has to be virtuous tone that he'll take later on in the song. Frankly, I don't think music has to be virtuous at all. Music can be completely hedonistic and escapist. I've used it for hedonistic and escapist purposes my entire life.
Yep.
But I said music. I didn't say hip hop. So that would be my answer to that point that he makes. It's because more people are interested in making music than I think are interested in making hip hop. And then when you go to upload your fucking song, what choice do you have? Can I take this song that, as far as an algorithm is concerned, calls it rap and hip hop? That's my choice. I don't have that choice for weirdo alternative hip hop. Like I don't have a genre. Like if you want to play
Yeah.
that route, so it's because everybody likes labels. And then the labels got really confused, and you don't have a choice. So you put that label, but half the young people's, half the people. So like when somebody like that says that hip hop comment to me, and then I actually talk to the people they criticized often. The people who are criticized, they're like, bruh, I don't even make the hip hop. Y'all told me I make hip hop. I just make music. So there
Yep.
is a bit of a juxtaposition there. And I did want to answer that question sincerely because that's the answer to your question. Now, if we want to talk about why people sell out their integrity and for the sake of like the record labels and stuff, well, because like it's fucking hard to do all the business shit. That's the answer to your question again there too. So you get to a point where like, you know, you're just trying to look. I know you all get it, but like I'm answering the questions because like I felt the frustrations were like kind of big there, and I'm like, okay. So what I'm hearing is like there's a lot of legitimate concerns as to how people are diluting hip hop culture away from empowerment and taking pride in who you are to pursue like this hedonism and this darkness that is probably detrimental. It's just that like pop music was always that. And that's the only part of like the overall equation I have an issue with because like pop music since time was that. I like it's just that it used to be soft as shit like I wanna hold your hand. That's the most innocuous fuck. You know what? You know what's a really toxic song? If you want to talk really toxic, all you need is love. That's bullshit. You need so much more than love. Love is helpful, but you need a lot more than love. So this has just been toxic, vapid bullshit, flooding charts across all genres forever. So people who want to be pop
Interesting
stars,
that the next song is called Love is Love.
I'm just saying, I'm not. I didn't even think about that. I just think a lot about the fact that, like, the hip hop culture often isn't nurtured by the artists in the culture. So the scenes aren't nurtured by the people in it. And everybody just assumes that Billboard and the labels and all the famous people, like, that's not a culture. That's a business. So the business is doing business things. So the answer to the question is, it's because cultures and businesses are not the same thing. And if you want to eat off of your art, it's super fucking complicated for a lot of people to understand how to navigate the businesses. So they end up conforming to it due to a lack of knowledge. Of which, Napoleon Da Legend here is really effectively dropping that knowledge on the peoples. So I answered a question while talking about the guy who is actively pursuing solutions to this problem, because this really is like, yo, don't sell out your culture and your fucking soul for like the sake of whatever, because yo, the sufferance, the hard times, the pain of going through the process of staying pure to who you are is like fucking worth it. Look at how I get to be who I am because of it, you know. And I really like that. Like, you ain't acting your age or your wage. And I'm like, yo, bro, spitting some facts here. Like, I want to make it clear. I wasn't answering his question like the way I did for the sake of like arguing with him. Nah, I just don't know if he knows the answer to the question or if he was asking rhetorically. So fuck it. I figured I'd run it. But I agree with him. I'm like, yo, if you in your 30s, shouldn't you be like working and like contributing to your like community, and like partying probably should be like a once in a while thing? Like, yo, okay, look, once a month, go get fucked up. That seems like an appropriate thing, in my opinion, for your like there. And it's not because like I want to shit on like lifestyles and how people are. It's just like sometimes I think about it from like the point of view of how people. And I don't have kids, right? So especially when like half of my peers have children and their lives are so drastically different than mine, it just, there is no right or wrong to this. These are just thought experiences and musings that come from it. Because, yo, he said, you ain't acting your age or your wage. But the your wage part is the really big one. So it's not so much the acting your age. It's that, like, people try to lease or do a bunch of fake shit in order to, like, and when I say fake shit, I mean, like, putting cheap champagne in a fancy champagne bottle to pretend the champagne nicer than it is kind of fake shit in order to, like, improve the visuals and the optics and some really, I don't know, man. And he goes on from there, and I feel like his rage moved into me, but he's like trying to elevate it and be like his own thing. look, I don't know what the right answers are, but like, I do feel like I understand his frustration having talked to a lot of people and seeing where it's coming from. Um, I just don't know what the solutions are to the things that he's putting forth, because I feel like he mixes two things here. He mixes pop music in the music industry and hip hop culture as like these things are the same, but they're absolutely not the same thing. And that got me thinking about that whole tension that went on. So anyway, I fucks with the track because it's really well put together and it's a really strong song, and you feel his passion and you feel everything in it really greatly. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5 on 5. I really like this album a lot. I could definitely see myself re-listening to it. But
Nice.
like
Well,
as an album, I feel like it's one of those, like, I don't know if any of the Bronze Saints I could bump by itself, but most of it is like I like the album experience and the growth and the progression of emotions.
yeah,
Anyway, love is love, right? That's what you wanted to say.
sure is. Yeah.
Honestly, my first thoughts on this song is like, yo, is this 2021? Like, this is just so like old school in like a good like way. Like, I use that language because it just sounds like this could have been 95 or some shit for real. But like, it's really cool and it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like dated or anything. It has that like timeless kind of quality to it, and I like that. But it still also feels like it's old, but it feels timeless old, and that's nifty. Or I guess it's 2019, not 2021. My bad.
Yeah.
But what do you think of this one?
Well, he's just sort of talking about that everybody is fighting to prove that they know the answer to like where you go when you die, but like all of these religions kind of don't agree on the same thing. So clearly nobody knows. And that, just try and enjoy life while it's happening because nobody knows what's going to happen after or if anything happens or whatever. And everybody's theory is different and there's nothing tangible or proven. Um, so just kind of remember that love is like the most important thing, and to kind of like let that be your legacy, and sort of like just talking about like the energy that you give in the world. And like he's also talking about like when haters are hating, he's just saying like they're just fearful, they're just scared of love, they're just scared of all of these other things that are in this world, and they don't know where they're going to go, and they're nervous, and they're just scared. And so just to remember to love, and love is everything. So really it's good, it's very kind. I gave it a 4.35. I like this one.
See, this is like love is love. Not all you need is love. It's more like
Mm-hmm.
love is a powerful essence that can help guide you and shit. But you also need fucking
Yes.
wisdom. Just throwing it out there. Um, but that's what
Yeah.
this song provides. It's almost like this is the companion piece to, that would give you a little more context. Like, the world is fucking harsh. And there's a lot of bad things that happen. And I feel like, yo, this whole song is him almost venting out just like thoughts on shit, the uncertainties in life. Like, ain't no telling where we go after this. Mad theories from Muslims to the Buddhists, the Jewish and the Christians, gurus and philosophers like Krishna, but
Yeah.
who really knows? Unless you travel through that black hole. And so it's like, if you think about death, I don't know, lately I think about it a lot more than maybe, other people do. But I feel like a lot of people think about it, like, enough that there's entire religions and shit. Like, what the fuck happens when you die? You cease to exist in this plane of existence, and then fuck what? You just nothing? Are you just something? Nobody really knows. So the only way to find out is to die. That's complicated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the whole world is just harsh. I really like that it's a doggy dog world. Snoop Dogg told you, because that's the Snoop Dogg album. Anyway, and just the
Yep.
way like takes the situation and plays that like life kind of is what it really really is. But if you focus on the love, it's gonna be like good for you,
Yep.
regardless of what. It's love, y'all. We fall down, we get up. It's love, y'all. It's about the vibe you give up. It's love, y'all. It boils down to us. It's love, y'all. So all of these things around you are the circumstances that like impact you, but via the choice and activeness of pursuing love and understanding the love for each other, it's like we can kind of like circumvent the complications of shit.
Yeah.
Like tackle life full speed, no time for cold feet, smoke a gold leaf and let my body heal like Wolverine. A lot of culture thieves sold you a lot of dreams, promoting memes, selling you on what you gotta be. And that is like a super fucking interesting thing, right? People
Yep.
going real fast, especially when you're young. people get high, maybe, you know, like whatever, maybe he's just getting high here, but people do smoke a lot of weed to like heal and whatever, their mind, their body, etc. But at the same time, the reason for that healing is probably because, yo, a lot of people sell a lot of bullshit, the memes, the ideas of what you're supposed to be, and that's just not even new. Yo, I remember part of why I didn't want to pursue like formal education was this weird cultural conformity that you like have to be a certain way in order to achieve greatness. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm that way, so I didn't really pursue school. But like, school was weird for me because I didn't fit in and I didn't like it. I mean, the knowledge part's always dope, but I found it was inefficient and it wasn't really my cup of tea. So like,
Right.
in a sense, school turns people like universities and shit into like walking memes a little bit in terms of this baseline cultural conformist thinking that people have. It fits society and kill your individuality. Like, I seen that shit a lot. And yo, I grew up in this like whole like, yo, be who you wanna be bullshit used to like hang in the ceilings when I was in like primary school, right? Like, it was like big and colorful messages on being yourself.
Mm.
And that shit's a fucking lie. That's not really what the world wants. I don't know, to fit society, but then it's like that's backwards, like drinking alcohol to get sobriety, and I'm bringing back the meaning, got you wondering. I guess that's what he was saying, because that's like, you know, because the song's kind of like, yo, where are you going with this? He's like that last scene of Breaking Bad's last session is at the end or the loop, beginning, a giant loop. And I'm like, that's a good point. How did Breaking Bad end again? And then I thought about that for a while. I digress. Overall, I feel like it's like you got to look at why people are the way that they are. You know, got to just understand the criticisms or a projection of fear, a bunch of different things in that regard, and he kind of plays it out proper with different examples. And then he just puts it down like the way people are. It's like divide, conquer, trying to put you in a place where you got to choose a side. I don't want to hate my bro, insist, rather coexist, grow and build together, maybe drink, maybe blow a spliff. Classic like Gordon Parks' photographs of Noah's Ark, this vintage Bonaparte on phonograph. So I like the part that he ends it where it's like the world is very polarizing, and algorithms have unfortunately fed this mechanism hugely to create a larger sense of polarization. There's a lot of data out there on like people's politics that shows people are way more extreme with their positions and way less centrist with it, um, and that creates
I
hatred
like
for
that he
people.
mentions Bonaparte.
Yeah, because he's fucking Napoleon. Um,
Yeah.
but like, and I like the fact that like he compares his sound to something so classic and so powerful. Because like I said, there's like a timelessness to the sound he's creating that I really think people are gonna fuck with over time. Because you know, over time we still think that that is like a timelessy kind of feel to it. Maybe it lasts 3-4 generations. Who the fuck knows? But it's really good shit. And a powerful message. Like, yo, through love you can develop the empathy to understand the hatred around you. That's cool, you know. So like I gave it another 4.5. It's really consistent. Like it's just like really like every song is hitting me at this point with like the same quality. If anything, I feel like we're rehashing the main theme in like different directions, but I guess that's the
Yeah.
point. Like I said earlier, it's a bit of like a self-help how to approach life kind of situation, while doubling I guess on this anime as like a top level guidance in the theme. Let's move on to Athena's Cry. So what do you think of this one, Bonnie?
He just tries to be a good guy, really. He's just sharing and he considers others. And he's just trying to, do the right thing. And he kind of like helps a kid in Africa, he's supporting someone and, he doesn't get like distracted by things and just focuses on his art and doing good in the world and obviously love in the world, right? And he just kind of lets everything else go and he doesn't, and even if he has to let people go and things that he was once passionate about, he's like, no, like that's not, like, as much as I love that and I enjoy doing these things, this is my right path and I have to just kind of follow this and stay true to that. And he kind of talks about that he protects people from badness. So this is kind of going back to like him being like a superhero, like he's kind of like saving the world a little bit. And like he doesn't give up no matter what, and he doesn't want like the devil to win. And like we have like a little pep talk from Nejma. Was it Nejma, the Nefertiti? So I mean, she's kind of great, and she has like this good like emphasis on like her part. It's just really like lovely and powerful, and you know that he doesn't want, you know, he doesn't like want people to give up, and he doesn't want people to let the devil kind of take over. um so he kind of knows what's up. Like he seems like he's a pretty good guy. So I get this a 4.5 on 5.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
I enjoyed this one also in terms of the sound. I feel like at this point in the album though, like I'm hit with this sense of denseness. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'm like sitting there and I'm like, it's a lot of bars. And again, it's in like the same vein of things too, right? Like I feel like it's the kind of album that you really, really have to listen to like more than once, over and over, if you really want to like capture the essence of the level of detail he put into it. But there's just a few things that like he said in this track that I still think popped out at me. Like hobbies, I had to let go. We wasn't on the same vibes. And that idea of hobbies that you had to let go is kind of like nifty to me, right? Because like there are definitely hobbies I've had to give up in my life, and I still try to like, maybe Netflix isn't the best use of my time kind of thing in particular. So I went to YouTube more because at least with YouTube I could like learn in a way that was more localized and this that and like just. But even then, like, is that the best use of time or whatever? So I thought a lot about that, like the vibes of who you are changed, and then that connects to your friends. So you often like think about it in terms of like friends that we have to let go, and not necessarily the habits which are attached to hobbies, or even the way we treat things. So I feel like there's like, that's what I mean, there's so much density in this project that like you got to be in such a pensive mood, I believe, to really consume this. um Narcissistic tendencies, I recognized them quickly, then I nipped it in the bud, was used to living life risky. I'm not like the Saint Seiya person, but I just played it low and worked with a sense of urgency like I got a day to go. And that part I again really resonated and connected with. Like I'm not the best. I just do what I can to improve who I am, and I put in that level of effort and that sense of urgency, like I'm gonna die, and I live my life to the fullest type of shit. I'm recording all the time. I'm doing all the things, but like more than just doing it for like the music, right? Like doing it in a sense for other people, for other in a sense of service rather than pursuing the fame, because people out there will take advantage of it. So he's got to be smart on how I guard my gift, and I like
Yeah.
that part too. Um, you can keep your gadgets and your Gucci fanny packs, and I love that line because Chris wears fanny packs, right? I'm like, go run
I
it,
mean, I
run
own a
it.
fanny pack. It can be very useful.
I'm like, I got a backpack. That shit's useful. No, I just thought it was funny because of that. But it's the idea of having him for the sake of fanciness and whatever. I give him random acts of kindness with a random axe. And I like that one too because, like, yo, he comes through and he just fucking helps people and builds up other people and is on that, like, if I eat, everybody eat, get your plate vibe, which a lot of people claim to be on, but are certainly not on. Because otherwise, it'd be a lot more full people and a lot less hungry people if that were the real truth of it. Um, so I like the fact that it's almost like a lot of people are like, yo, you could be so much more, but he's like, yo, but you don't understand. I'm doing all this, but there's so much more to do over here. Can never gentrify my grace. I like that too. Like, I'm not going to sell out who I am to pursue shit. Like, they won't care about you unless you got some sort of power. Success comes beyond a week of working 40 hours, and that part's too true. Like 40 hours is like a baseline, I guess. And I mean that, like, this idea that like people historically work less is ridiculous. People are working less now than like ever before. Like literally, people would die sooner because they were working like 70-hour weeks all the time, and we said, oh, that's not healthy. We should work less. But like, then you just got people that do work 80 hours every week, and people act like it's like an impossibility, but it's not. You can healthily work 70, 80 hours a week if you understand time management and how to like balance and how to create all this shit. So it's like, I see what he's saying. And the more power, the more you can offer people. And power comes from like servitude, right? Like real power is I can like elevate you, like I can do something for your life. That's how you get power, because then people look at you and they're like, yo, he can or she can give me something in their life. And I'm like, fresh. So it's like, to do that, you're probably gonna have to work more than 40 hours, and a lot of people limit themselves. Like they lock out, like they treat the weekend like it's this like 2-day rest period. Like I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not saying like I say this shit and like I believe it. I agree with this dude. I believe it to my core. Other people don't have to agree with me, but I do live my life like this. You can ask Bonnie. Bonnie hates it. It's the facts of it. She wishes I was not like this a little bit. I understand. It's
I
fucking
don't
annoying.
hate it, but like sometimes even like you get frustrated with the amount that you work and the stress that you feel on you. So I think that's kind of what my issue is.
But then one day the tide turns and now there's more people and this, that, anyway. But that's also complicated. Either way, you never stop when you're really trying to pursue that great shit. You just don't get to. Otherwise, yo, I could just go like play. Yo, I have enough video games right now because of Epic to like fucking last me like 5 years. No problem. 5 years of video games locked up if shit hits the fan for me. I'm good. I'm good. Uh, anyway, let's move on with the track. Shit's not gonna hit the fan. I like this life way more. Bonnie's like, please don't. No, let's keep doing
Like
this.
I mean, I get like how like back in the day, like farmers or whatever, like they had to work all day, and like there are certain jobs where you do have to work all day every day and it's nonstop for your entire life, but that's not every job. That's it.
No, I hear you. Um, but like Lawrence of Arabia in the desert, the pain of loss embedded in my cranium forever, craving to make the better world for children to smile, protected from molesters and malevolent crowds. And I feel like he flows through the rest of the track like this. It's more of a mission statement of who he wants to be. He wants to use his art to elevate, to protect, to be powerful. And I feel like it's like he's really inspired by, like, that like early 90s era of hip hop when there was this cultural movement of empowerment attached to it. And he kind of wants to bring that back and to be that voice because there is a lot of power for like people looking for role models, especially in environments where not everybody can read. Because like in Canada, as an example, we take for granted the literacy rates that exist in our place. Like we take it for granted and just expect that the whole world is given that same privilege of the education system that we have here. And there's a lot of power in people making this kind of music because maybe that's the only time a person can get a lesson is through like a song, just because of environments and circumstances that are extremely fucking different than the ones that I live in. But have been explained to me and they're real and shit. So I understand what he's doing. He's trying to like create this music that is not like, it's not for me, right? Like this album is not for me. I'm like a fucking honky album reviewer, dude. Like, are you kidding me? I can't be judging this shit. I can tell you my impressions of it and whatever, but like the
I
content.
don't know if it's not for you. I don't think that this is like,
I mean,
I don't know. Like I think that you can still consume this. I
right,
don't think that
but
this is.
I'm not who he's writing for, is what I'm saying. Like, yo, everybody, when you write your art, I believe you have an audience in mind. If you're a great artist, everybody tells you, or great, if you're writing for everyone, you're making pop. Like, you're not writing for anyone then, if you're writing for
Okay.
everyone. So everything that's super powerful, you have to be writing for someone. You have somebody in mind when you create something.
Yeah, you have to select your audience.
And I'm just saying that Holden, middle class Montreal honky ass dude, is not the primary audience of who he had in mind for this music.
Fair
And
enough.
that's something I need and we all need to be cognizant of. So the musical qualities are perfection and shit. And the message is so interesting to listen to because it's like it's so empowering. And I'm just trying to do my best to like like connected fist to chest to the devil's heart ripped up. Like I fucks with that, like just trying to like manage the emotion of like himself and his struggle to be pure to who he is. And let's be real, like there's a lot of gentrification that happens in music. It is a great way to describe it. And to fight that is a powerful entity. I mean, I personally try to fight it. Like who the fuck would I be to judge him? I'm doing it in my own way. I'm kind of trying to do the same thing he's doing, just in a different way to a different audience and a different like thing, but I relate heavy to it. Just anyway. So I really like overall his like whenever duty called and the truth is involved, we rise to any task, shatter all ceilings and walls. Like that's fucking powerful shit. I just really like it a lot. I really like it. But yeah, like even when you're writing for yourself, like just as an idea, because the comments there, like you're still kind of writing for an audience yourself. You're still a demo. You still fit into communities. Like even if it's for yourself, it's still for like a specificer audience than writing for everyone. Like yeah, I write for myself, but like I also like write for people I represent, kind of thing. In the way that when you write for yourself and you can attach that to people you represent, that's when you're hitting some bigger levels. That's what I'm trying to learn how to do, is to be the voice of people, rather than just like to write my experiences as the voice of people. That's the shit. Like that's the ultimate shit in this like independent grind, in my opinion. And I think that Napoleon Da Legend is really demonstrating that on this album, which is why I'm like 4.5 again. Like this shit is really awesome. The like it was like the third or fourth listen to this project that I did when I realized it clicked. Like this is pristine, and it's just like there's no flaw. Like I can say I don't understand things. That's the best I can say. I can't say it's boring. I can't say it's repetitious. Nah, it's like a self-help book of empowerment and greatness. Yeah. So end of the day, I like it a lot, and I think we can move on to Sanctuary. All right, Bonnie, how do you feel about this one?
This one's pretty interesting. Kind of like at first he's kind of talking about all of like the troubles and like the bad things that are happening in America. And then I think more in like the second verse he's talking like globally a little bit more. Because in the first verse he's kind of talking about that he wants to leave and go to Senegal and kind of like escape like like the human trafficking and like all like the crazy stuff that's happening in America, and people taking advantage of other people. And I also love that he wrote away from all the madness, the fracking and the gassing. I feel like I was very impressed with the fact that he mentioned fracking, which is not something that you hear about very much in music or art and things like that. And I think that that's like a super important issue to talk about. And in the second verse he kind of talks about kind of like the threat and on birds and bees, and how like they're diminishing, and how like we are kind of ruining our planet. And I think it's just kind of fantastic. I love this kind of stuff. So everything is kind of created now and modified, and it's nothing is necessarily natural anymore. And like these are sort of like his like futuristic thoughts as well. He's kind of talking about like the future, but at the same time it's now. He's talking about like self-driving cars and other things that are kind of popping up, and things that we're hearing about the last few years. And he is concerned for the future and where life is going and where humanity is going. And like we need to understand like we're doing a lot of bad things in the world. Like as much good that we're doing, kind of like the bad is in a sense outweighing the good, unfortunately. And so I think it's just time to like shift the balance. So I think that that's kind of cool, and it's kind of pretty great that he's kind of like discussing Earth's issues in like and not just like the earth, but like he's talking a lot about these kinds of things that humans are doing to the earth. At the same time, people are taking advantage of other people, so obviously the issues of what humanity is doing to ourselves. So I think this was pretty great. I give this a 4.6 on 5. I really like this one.
Yeah, this one is very strong. I mean, it's basically like it's got like an ironic tone on it. Like it's called Sanctuary, and in the chorus it kind of gives you the sense like you need to find that sanctuary, and the best way to do that is to actually help a friend and to like offer that sense of servitude to others, because there's like almost nothing else you can really do to escape everything else. But by doing that, you'll get this sense of like breaking what creates all of the things that like create the need for the sanctuary, which is what he like illustrates through the verses. Just like you said, a whole list of different things, from Ponzi schemes to wire frauds and false narratives propagated through Viacom. Like, yo, it's a pretty apt like fucking breakdown of America. I mean, as a Canadian, I'm always okay because this is Canadian culture, LMX. You know what Canadian culture really is? Shit on America. That's what makes us Canadians. We're better than the States.
Yay.
Hashtag Canada. I'm being that like ironic. But that is really what Canadians do. We like act like we super nice, but all we do is be like, fuck America, like the whole way through the day. Like most of us really do that. I mean, I personally witness Canadians doing it all the time. They don't want to admit it. It's facts. So with that in mind, it's totally how I feel about it. USA and Canada, because we're the same. We're exactly the same. It's a cesspool for modern day crooks. Exactly. Canada and the USA. Throw that in there. Throw that Canada in and it's like awesome. Anyway. But it's kind of what happens, you know? That we create this like charismatic scammers talking shit on cameras. Like, bruh, that's why I don't trust the internet. I could go talk some shit on the internet and I guarantee you I have convinced people into some dumb shit, ignorance. Somebody somewhere heard me break down some song where I was completely fucking wrong on. Completely wrong. And they now believe that shit. Just because I said it convincingly. And yo,
All matters.
I've written shit for like freelance work and the shit ranks on Google. And I'm like, I did no research. I just wrote that shit right. You know, like, and I'm not even flexing. It's not hard. And then to emulate shit, like I was actually listening to this song and going, man, this is a heavy song. It's really well delivered. It's like another 4.5. And I realized I give a lot of high grades because the quality of so much music is great nowadays, especially the new albums. It's almost like, I don't know if it's that, you know what it is? We've all studied such great excellence that via the osmosis of studying excellence, we can more efficiently achieve excellence. And the frontier of excellence is changing. Like, Napoleon Da Legend is wonderful. Objectively speaking, this song is like amazing, amazing, amazing. It's very heavy. And, you know, like on that, like, yo, the world's, it is like a great modern, the world fucked up, I need to escape it vibe. And you can empathize with it. And I heard songs like this before, and I'll hear songs like this again. But all I kept thinking about while listening to it is, damn, music is really good now. There's just so much really good music. Like, there's more really good music than there is bad music, I would say. That's the epiphany I had listening to this. It's weird. Listening to this whole fucking song about, like, terrible shit in the world, and maybe that's why, but there's so much good music right now, which is kind of cool, even though it's complicated because of the sensationalism of all the internets and whatnot. And I love all the stuff he lists. I like how he takes the time to talk about fracking or how the Amazon forests are long gone. And it's almost like the shit that's written about in Bible songs. It kind of is what it's like, you know? Like the Bible kind of predicts us fucking up the whole planet if you think about it. All kinds of shit like that he puts on Amazon robots doing jobs. And it's just like all the concerns from social media. That's what it a little bit feels like. It feels like this entire song is like a social media meme injection in verse form. Just one blast of it at once so that you need to like get off social media a little bit because you're tired of hearing about it all. And I kind of like that. I don't know if that was on purpose. I don't know what the goal of this was, but I really like what he did with it. So I'm going to give it another 4.5 on 5. It's really cool.
Nice.
So there's one more on this project, and it's called Soul Prayer. Feel about this one, Bonnie?
Well, I thought this was a pretty perfect ending for this album. He kind of is talking about that he's had trouble in his life, but he just wants to do good, and it basically just sounds like like a prayer to just for all of his issues that he kind of spoke about on this album, and how he prays for hope, and just to stay doing the good thing, staying on the right path. And I feel like I know like the sample that is being used on this one, but I can't place it. And he's just kind of like saying like, just breathe, everything he needs, he has. And I think that we all kind of like have to remind ourselves that, everything that we really need, we have, and that, we can just keep um, surviving and thriving, I think, as well. And that, that everything is within us. And, he is his own legacy. And, I think he kind of talks about like his seed. So I think he's talking about maybe his children or his potential children are also going to be his legacy, and he's going to show them the right path. And it just seems like a very nice conclusion for like the whole album. It's very like heartfelt and honest, and it's really great. I thought it was really perfect. I gave it a 4.4 on 5.
I thought it was a cool way to end it too, because it carries the emotional heaviness of everything we've been going through on this album, right? Like we feel that heaviness in his voice. He almost doesn't change. It's almost like he's broken to the point where like he's praying out to God, and this whole song is his prayer. But it's encompassed in this music that gives off this essence of niceness and serenity and peacefulness. So it like feels really like airy, but the lyrics are still kind of like fucking heavy as shit. It's
Yeah.
almost like via doing the prayer, by giving yourself up, because it ends with appreciation, right? And it ends with like that kind of like, upwards kind of tone on it. And by like giving yourself out to it, you're able to find the serenity and the peacefulness through the act of almost meditation, or going through it, or something like that, which I think is super super interesting. Whereas like the bars are powerful too. Like, tell me the fuck I got left, all the fam I grew up with and left. Why do I expect for myself? I want to give the world the best of myself. Kids are dying out there. It's hard. No one taught me anything but go hard. And then it's like he just kind of reaches out as the song goes on. It's like, do you hear me, God? Am I talking in vain? What am I doing this for? Why am I even trying? Try to make a
Yep.
better world. But then at the end of the day, it kind of flips into like, I owe you, I got you, you owe me, you got me. Balance above everything, all it ain't all about me. And it's like it changes a bit. When picking myself and an elderly lady had spoke, pick up a glass and ask myself how much it weighed. I was confused. I didn't know what to say. Then she said it don't matter how much it weighs. It's light now. It gets heavier the more she waits. And it's like this philosophical little twist that like shows that the more you focus on all these different balances and things and all the whatever in the world, it's like you're not
The heavier
pursuing,
it becomes.
but you're also like not pursuing that shit properly, like you're not living your best life, you're not actually building or whatever. If you learn to let go, you're gonna live long, more present and not feeling withdrawn. So it's like get over your shit a little bit, which is kind of I think what prayer is, in a sense supposed to be, to like unburden your soul so that you can like let go of it and not carry the burdens. Like before psychology even, how else would you tell people how to like healthily cope with emotions? Well, at least you could tell God will listen when nobody else
Yeah.
gives a shit. Anyway, everything I ever needed was in me. Wake up in the morning and breathe. And that's just such a powerful way to end it. Like you said, like just after everything in the world, that's all you can really do is just breathe, let it go, and move on, and just kind of keep going on with the different things you're doing.
Yep.
So it's very nice. I give it another 4.5. So what do you think about this album as a whole?
So I really liked how like cohesive like the whole album was in terms of like kind of like the overall like feel and like kind of like the sound and like kind of his expression and what he's kind of talking about and his emotions and kind of like what's just bothering him in the world and why he's going to keep fighting for like to stay on like the positive path and do all of that. um Although I do have to say that there were certain parts where like like more at the beginning of like the album, like there was more of like the kung fu clips and like the anime clips or whatever it was, and it just kind of felt like it kind of stopped like halfway through, and like they were very much there and then they kind of faded away. That was the only thing that I noticed that was kind of a little bit not like terrible or anything, but like just like a little like inconsistent, I guess. But overall very nice. And fracking, don't do it.
Um,
So I gave this a 4.4 on 5, so it's at 88% from me. So pretty good. Pretty good.
I really like the album. I feel like it's a cohesive experience. it's like replayability is gonna be completely based on if you're into this kind of thing. If you're into that dense
Yeah.
lyrical stuff, where like if you take the time to replay it, you get rewarded. But like if you just listen to this one off, you're probably not gonna catch like all the little nuances that do like make it kind of re-listenable. The way the song, sometimes like a song changes to the next song and you barely even recognize that the song changes, but it's got just a
Yeah.
subtle enough flip that when you do, it's okay. And like it's like it's almost designed to be played in one sitting as like a whole
And it's short.
thing.
It's like 37 minutes. Like it's not like particularly long.
And it feels like it's an album with a mission more than an album that's trying to give you singles, although it does give you that Bronze Saint joint, which I think you could do at a show and it would be real nice. But like it feels like it's more this like mission statement on how you can take pride in yourself and overcome the obstacles in your world, and like as a utilitarian exercise it achieves that goal really well, and the bars are super dope as it does it, and the way he rides the beat and flows is amazing, and it's just the artistry is super impeccable, and I really really enjoyed listening to it. I don't know how often I would re-listen to it because I don't know how often I'm in the mood for that kind of thing, but like as far as the quality of this music goes, it is like super incredible, and I know a lot of people I would recommend this to. Like that's the thing where it's like I listen
Yeah.
to a lot of stuff and I feel like yo, it's really great, and like whereas with Napoleon the Legend, I'm like listening to it and I'm like yo, I actually know people that would like really fuck with this. Like I respect and admire that talent and the artistry, but like I'm currently listening to like EDM fucking pop shit right now is where my vibe is at. So like this is like far out of the realms of where my preferences are kind of guiding me at the moment in terms of like pleasure listening. But as far as like going into this with that like studious mind and like trying to listen to what it's about, yo, this is not disappointing. This is like in an area of hip hop where I feel like it's the most saturated shit ever right now is to have like sample driven boom bap with a bunch of bars on it. Like I fucking swear for everybody that ever talks shit about mumble rap, this shit is the new mumble rap. And in that world, Napoleon the Legend knocks it out the park like a fucking boss, right? Because this is a really well done album that makes a lot of other people feel like they're just not as good as it. Like a lot of people try to do this, and then you hear something like this, and you're like, "Nah, this is what it's supposed to sound like." And then a lot of people sound that it's good. You know, that's all I'm trying to say about it. Like, I don't want to like point at anybody, but like, there's a reason I try hard not to go so far in the boom bap land anymore. Like, the bars land, like it has to have a real message or a purpose or something to it for me to be like really interested beyond you made a great pun. And since you really achieved that, I find this album is really like it's a little hidden classic gem. It's gonna like cater to the people that like really need it the most, I think, and it's like rewarding, and I really like it. I really do.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank y'all for watching this video. I totally appreciate y'all watching it live, all y'all watching it in the future. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave your comments, all that stuff. Special thanks to the patrons: Ismail Gadam C, Chris Pryor, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black Hurricane, Linda Williams, Scribble, Dope. They support what we do. And you can also follow up with that. Yeah, you can also support us, patreon.com/behind that suit. Anyway, thank y'all for being with us. Live long and prosper.